Almost lit. Okay, we're good? All right, should I get started? Let's call the order the meeting of the Finance Committee circa Monday, April 14th, 2025. Finance Committee of Stephenson County, I might add. So, with that, item 2.0, prayer. Would you mind, anybody want to take that up? Sure, I would appreciate it. All right, thank you.
Dear Heavenly Father, we just, you in the name of Jesus, we just ask you to help us work through these items tonight and make the best decisions for the county. We just are thankful for your help with all this work. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. All right, with that, item 3.0, approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve.
Second.
And a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. 4.0, review and approval of meeting minutes from the March 17, 2025 meeting. What's your pleasure?
Motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve.
Second.
And a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Approval of claims tonight. We have claims in the amount of cash requirements of $507,865.30. Manuals of $692,747.46 for a grand total of $1,200,612.76. What is your pleasure with those?
Move to approve.
I have a motion to approve.
Second.
And I have a second. Any discussion on these? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I will pass those down for everybody to sign. As we are doing now. Okay, public comments. Mr. Sheriff, you have any comments? No. Okay. Thank you, appreciate that. All right, hearing none, reports to committee. Carrie will not be here. Anybody hear anything from her this month at all? I have not.
Should go on vacation next week.
Tomorrow morning.
Or through the 22nd.
Yeah, I did not hear anything.
Nothing's for health insurance.
So, Madam Administrator, you have the floor.
All right, well, this morning, the city county did have a meeting, Chairman Helms was there, it was off my calendar, so I did not participate, but. So it sounds like we're back on track with those.
It's good.
Currently working on employment contracts with our Director of Building and Zoning as well as our EMA Director, as they both expressed interest in contract renewals. This Thursday, I am hosting the ILCMA regional meeting, which is my professional organization, kind of rotate through our area. And on Thursday, it'll be at the Lena Brewing. We usually have a working lunch meeting. So, Chairman Helms also attended the land bank meeting for me on May 3rd. Wellness screenings took place April 3rd. April 2nd, 3rd, and 9th. We got the final numbers today, and I want to say that was 76 or 77 participants. So numbers were down a little bit, but not significantly. We still don't have that final report where any identifiers and things come up, but I will share information once I get that. The department head meeting last week, Chairman Helms attended, which was good. There was some open conversation with some of the department heads, and positive feedback on that. Things that we discussed next month. A representative from Access Systems will be there to kind of do a meet and greet before the on-site setups start taking place, so that the department heads at least have a name for the contact for the area. Final audit field work is the week of the 25th. Hence, then elected officials reminded to get those things wrapped up in the portal sooner rather than later. We discussed proposed budget policy changes and follow up from the employee retention and satisfaction survey. We're going to be doing another kind of follow up survey. The results from the first one were very pinpointed to certain departments and kind of more interdepartmental issues than things
General
countywide incentive things or retention things. So we're working on a rework on that. Next Security Free Partnership meeting is on the 30th. And I was also notified by Head to Toe in Lena. They do apparel. They have set up the county seal free of charge for the county if anybody is seeking things with that on it. So I know there's a couple other local providers as well as Vista Print that have it, but there's usually a setup fee for the logo. They notified me they were able to set that up for free. So,
Nice.
and that's all I have.
Any questions? Mr. Chairman, anything you want to add since you attended one or two of these?
Land bank meeting, we voted to dispose of 2 properties in the city of Freeport that will get redeveloped, which is good. They'll get back on the tax rolls. As far as the city county meeting today, it was productive. We talked about further ways to collaborate. Of course, it's more the city asking the county as opposed to the county asking the city. But it was a good conversation with the mayor and the city manager. We'd missed, I think, 2 months due to scheduling conflicts that they had, but really reiterated that we want to work together with them and find other projects. We talked a little bit about community policing. Sheriff's going to look into, you know, I guess ways to potentially assist. Yeah, I don't know that it's really a whole lot of collaboration there, but regardless, we're looking at just further ways to save the taxpayers' dollars, do things more efficiently.
Sounds good. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
All right.
Question.
Question.
Those properties that we talked about at planning and development, or are those different properties?
They are going through city council, not tonight at community development, leave next Monday for the first reading.
That's a different set of properties.
Then what you're talking about for land bank.
Yeah, well.
Oh, yeah, no, the land bank is totally separate from the properties that
Okay,
we're transferring to the city. Sorry, I misunderstood.
I didn't ask it very well. Thanks.
No, that's okay.
All right, anything else? Okay, Madam Finance Director, you are up.
All right, just a quick audit update. We're uploading the documents for the final audit field work that the administrator mentioned. Starting next week. We have a conference call with Sigich tomorrow morning to discuss the new GASB 101 standard. This is a new rule that takes any unused vacation and sick time and includes that as a liability on our audit statements. So this is all new. We don't know if we need to go by each employee or come up with an estimate per department. It's a little confusing, so we're hoping to get some clarification on that tomorrow. An ARPA update. I took part in a webinar last week as kind of a refresher course since we only have to upload reports yearly. So they touched on the procedure of returning any unused funds. We obviously wouldn't have to worry about that, but all of the funding needs to be allocated by December 31st of 2024. So I went ahead and uploaded the annual compliance report for ARPA to the US Treasury portal this morning. And the discussion on the budget policy, if you're able to open that up. So there are a lot of suggested revisions and those are highlighted in yellow. A lot of the changes pertain to the grants. And you can see the sheriff is here to touch on a few of those suggestions. I really am grateful that their focus group decided to take a look at this policy, and I think the departments that have grants and apply for grants on a regular basis really need to be the ones that provide the input on dates and things like that, so.
The only thing that I was coming here to talk about, and I wasn't the focus group, I was called into the focus group so they could ask questions, and they asked a lot of good questions. Really, the only thing, unless there's something else highlighted there that would be a kind of a stickler with the grants, is when it's not a matching grant. I think it would be perfectly fine if we were able to go after that grant since it's not matching. And so that everyone in this room knows, I am opposed to matching grants. I don't even look at them. So when I get a grant, my grant people, I ask, find out if that's something that we need to match, because if there is, there's no way I can plan for that down the road. And for an example of that, years ago when they did the COP grant, they said that they would give the money for 3 officers to be wherever, but then you had to match that same grant for the next 5 years to pay those same officers. The thing that you don't think about is each one of those officers that's on the street, they're getting raises. How's the overtime getting paid when they're working overtime in those areas and things like that? So I never knew how that worked. That was way before my time. But those are the ones that come to mind with me. So if it's not a matching grant for the sheriff's office, sometimes we get a last minute grant. The one that I can think of the best is the ILEAS grants. The ILEAS group, which is the Illinois Law Enforcement alarm system. They'll call because they get grants given to them from all over the county or all over the state. They reach out to the cities and the counties and they say, we have a grant for tasers, but we just found out about this because somebody gave up their portion of the money and we have 10 days to put in tasers. So can you write your grant, how many tasers you would like, but I need it within 10 days. So those are the types of grants that I get thrown at all the time. And those are the expenses that I would really like to avoid. But if I have a grant that says you can get 3 tasers out of this or 2 tasers out of this, those are the ones I'd like to go after. And the only way I can do that is to get on that immediately that week. If I have to wait to get to a committee or to a board, that those 30 days, even if it's 15 days out, it's still too late and I miss out on that free money. So that's the only concern that I have with that, unless there was something else highlighted that I was associated with.
Matching grants. Just the dates, must be reported to the finance committee by June 30th. You said maybe move the date to September,
And what was that for? Oh,
just matching grants,
Okay.
or
is that budget stuff? Was that budgets?
The reason for the June 30th, if I could,
Mhm.
the June 30th date that we put that in there, and actually you and I, Steve, worked on that, if you remember, was so that would be prior to the budget
right,
process. September's not too late, I guess, but it's cutting it pretty close.
right.
There's another provision in here about a presentation of the finance committee will also be required prior to budget approval or by July 31st of each calendar year for outside agency funding. Which is in a different, it's on page 3. So I assume that's after the June 30th or. Hopefully everybody gets a chance to at least peruse this a little bit, and look at some of the highlighted parts, or there were changes recommended. Do we need to approve this?
No, this is just discussion for the next 2 months. Approvals in June.
No, that's why, yeah, I just reluctant as a discussion tonight, but just from, it will need to be approved at some point.
Yes,
Yes,
in June.
okay. But there are other things on here, user fees was a question I had. User fees charged that should be reviewed by county administration, elected officials, and appointed department heads on an annual basis to ensure that the fee collected is covering the cost of the service provided. That's another thing. I don't remember reviewing these at any point. To my knowledge, maybe I missed it.
So after our fee study, we had a window where every year we would bring the fees back and recommend increases based on the cost of living, and they were denied every year. We've now been out of that fee study. It's been almost 6 years. So we're kind of in that window of a new fee study would be needed. Because we haven't done the annual increases.
What was incorporated in the fees?
The company that we contracted with came in and sat down with every department that had fees and went through a process of, how long it took them to do each thing, what supplies were needed, what hourly wage for the person, completing the task, all of the things that go into completing that service was evaluated, and then fees were recommended to be based on.
How do
on
they
the costs.
incorporate the actual tax base revenue into that equation? In other words, we have a fee that we charge for the service, let's say marriage license.
Mhm.
Well, people are paying taxes in general anyway to pay for the circuit clerk's office, right? We, unless I'm mistaken, get money in from that goes into our coffers every year,
Right.
right? That gets allocated to the circuit clerk's office. How do you attribute that tax money against the cost and the fee appropriately?
So what they were looking at was anything we charged a fee for, not supporting the office as a whole.
Okay.
So they only evaluated things that fees were being charged.
Factor that in.
Yeah, so, you know, having the service of that office is what all the taxpayers are technically supporting, I guess. But the actual fees for the person who needed the marriage license were evaluated, or
And I've
the,
always struggled with that concept myself a little bit because everybody's paying taxes. And I don't say it's not something we should do, not saying that, but how do we quantify that effectively, right? To really recoup the cost of, because I know on the fee structure, we're associating that with a certain group of people that are using this service over here versus the county as a whole. And I understand that from a conceptual standpoint, but it's still part of the service that department provides, right? As a whole, as its makeup. You know, should we be, for instance, bringing in more revenue from our general tax base, however that is, versus charging a fee for it? Again, you and I can have a separate debate on that, or just.
Well, if you don't mind, I'll just-
yeah.
so
Is that-
the fee study was my baby.
Okay.
Because tax revenues could not keep up with expenses out of the clerk's office because of wages, benefits, all of that. Everything keeps going up. The cost of materials keeps going up. The taxes that are rolling into that office aren't enough to cover everything. So when somebody that's a renter comes in and wants to get a marriage license, why do I have to pay for that? And fees hadn't been increased for 17 years, which was a big problem when we did it.
Yeah, behind, yeah.
6 years into it. You'll never keep up with the taxes. You're gonna have to raise taxes every year if you want to cover the expenses for everything, or stop giving people raises, take their health insurance away from them, don't give them retirement. And we're not gonna do that.
That won't work.
Well, and then our building permits, that's just to notify us as a county that we can raise your taxes.
Right.
That's what it's there for, and it brings revenue.
Yeah,
Mr.
it's
Chairman,
The zoning department brings money in on a regular basis.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to
Yeah.
add one little small element
Sure.
to that. So for most of, I could say most, many of the offices, particularly the elected officials, constitutional officers, the fees that our office charges are statutorily driven. We have to charge them.
Right.
For example, I think this is a good example, are the fees that are associated with the tax sale. So to use your example, it is my duty to collect and process and distribute taxes, right? But if I have to go to sell your taxes because you didn't do, Mr. Taxpayer, the job that every other taxpayer did, there are extra steps, duties, responsibilities to me, state, to other outside entities. So there are additional fees for that, but they are all statutory. I don't just make one up. So there's a lot of pieces to that fee structure. And I think that we need to be clear about what's required, what's statutorily driven, and what, if anything, has discretion.
But then I have a question on that too, is the statutorily driven fees are not part of the fee study.
They were. I mean, we were all interviewed and asked,
Sure.
what is your time commitment to this fee? What is this person who is performing this task? I think the purpose of that is to see, well, if the state says this is what they think you should be charging, I think it sets a good comparison for those that are not statutorily driven. If there are some discretion, if there is some discretion that can be used, then we can be a comparison.
Thank you.
Yeah, it may be a discussion we need to have, because when I look at the budget going into next year, I don't know if you are, I'm a little concerned about where we're gonna be.
Well, we can't raise fees without doing another fee study. And it's about 40 grand.
So I was just gonna ask that. Grand, that's.
But couldn't we adjust our fees according to the fee study?
We would have had to do that annually after the first year and the board has voted it down all the time.
And we could
Well,
do
because-
that for a period of 5 to 7 years, but after the third year that it was declined, then you're out of the window for that.
Because we just,
Because we declined raising them.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, we'll get back to that.
We'll revisit it in 17 more years.
Yeah.
Somebody will.
Mr. Chairman Colson.
Yes,
So there was a comment on purchasing by the sheriff. It should be changed to the most qualified low bid,
Yes, the most qualified low bid.
right, instead of least expensive bid.
Because we're seeing a lot, if I could talk, Mr. Chairman.
please.
We're seeing a lot of people just throwing low ball out there. For instance, the roof bid, we took the second, quote, not the lowest. The lowest guy argued with me that that was the original roof and that they would have to do all kinds of things and they could just go over and it was cheaper. The original roofers, which was Industrial Roofing, said no, or I'm sorry, it was the other way. It was the original roof and they could go over it. Industrial said they'd already put 2 layers on there. They have to take those off. So that was the extra cost that there was. So just by hearing that from the company and telling me that that was not true, and we've got the people that said, yeah, that's a second layer on there. The first company even did a drill sample out of there and found out that they would have to take it off, but they were gonna just put another piece over there. So those are the types of things that I look for, just like I'm going through the cleaning right now. And the ADA restroom, I need a complete plan in front of me, so I know that you're competent in putting an ADA compliant restroom in. And the research that I'm doing right now, I don't think this company added the floor drain, because apparently a floor drain has to be in an ADA compliant restroom. So when they come back, I'm gonna have an engineer for ADA take a look at that and make sure it's compliant, because if it's not, they're now incompetent, and I'll have to move on with something else.
Well, and that mirrors our code better anyway through the bidding process of our code that says most qualified.
And
Sense. The other one I had written down here was on revenue estimations. At the end, it says the county board must review all current existing grants by January 30th of each calendar year. It's happened. There was a question mark by there, and then I believe, Mr. Sheriff, this might have been you. No, this wouldn't happen if you get the grant, it's implemented, and that's the end of it. Should be up to the department head or the elected official to report something that's not correct. Now, on ones that are not matching, obviously, and it makes perfect sense.
And what I'm referencing to there, any grants that I actually have, it's a one-time deal. I do what I have to do. We get the money, and more times than not, I have to spend the money first. Then I get a check, then I talk to Adrian about it. So then it's done. So there's not these 2, 3, 4 year long grants to make sure that all the moving parts are going. So that's another thing that I try to avoid. And that's why I was saying that it should be, the money comes in, the money goes out, and it should be done.
Who looks for, who writes your grants?
We get grants through several different places. They shoot them out to you. And then when we look at them, me and Chief Deputy Schroeder, we look them over. And then Erica, our social services director, she's also good at getting grants. She looks them over. She's actually with Chanel. I think between the two of them, we've maybe gotten 4 grants this year.
That's what I was hoping, is that Chanel was involved. 'Cause I know when we were talking about that a lot as a subcommittee. To even look at how we can partner even with GFP, somebody to do like, go out and look, see where else we can accommodate grants.
Ours are pretty specific.
Yeah.
If anyone had a building grant, that's where I would love them to jump in, because I don't know what's out there for building grants, but again, that's gonna be a government building, so I'm not sure what's really out there. I don't know, Tammy Duckworth.
Yes, sir.
Do you want to talk about Black Hawk Hills and the success that they've had with the highway department for grants?
I mean, we do have, the ability to, go look for those grants. I mean, I don't know how much, I don't know if they've been approached about it, but Of course, I mean, we're gonna talk about that a little bit, but yeah, they've had a lot of success in the highway department with helping to write certain grants. So, yeah, I mean, utilize Black Hawk Hills because we have people that are out there looking at grants all the time. So that's not nothing that costs us anymore. We're already paying for it. So, going to work, yeah, you need something like that, just.
Would you mind getting a contact, Chanel?
Sure. Oh, that's
Does she have that? You guys know?
I've talked to her
Have
about
you? Okay.
Black Hawk Hills. A lot of their grant specific stuff is infrastructure and planning
Okay.
and more of that thing, but
She's a good grant writer.
Yeah.
I can send her the contact info again.
Yeah, they might be open to doing some other shit. See what else.
So, I mean,
Never hurts.
we'll look into it.
Yeah. Thank you. Oh.
There was a vehicle replacement and use comment also that
What's that?
there was a vehicle replacement and use comment also. So it reads, all employees who operate county vehicles must sign the applicable policy agreement. A copy of these forms must be filed in the administrative office. Department heads are responsible for ensuring compliance with any and all applicable policies as it applies to daily use vehicles or take-home vehicles. And the sheriff's comment. I have no idea what this means, but it should be updated and defined by who can drive department vehicles.
Never seen that before.
Is that appropriate? I'm sorry, for a budget policy? That seems more bold
It
than.
was in there.
Well, yeah, my question would be, should this be in, I have
Well,
a
it talks about-
question, why is it in the budget policy? That's more of a.
It's paragraph before that says prior to the replacement of any vehicle, so I'm assuming if you were asking for the replacement dollars. That's why it was listed in the budget policy.
Yeah, I don't know, that seems more like an administrative thing to me.
There is. So did it in policy.
Well, but, talking about the replacement is part of the policy I get, but
That's the other section, yeah.
I would just take that out. You see any reason that needs to be in there? I mean, insurance is a separate issue,
Right.
so. You got any problems taking that out?
Well, since I don't know what it means,
Right.
Right.
Let me explain it to you, Mr. Sheriff, let me explain it. No, I have no idea either, why, Hey. Any other questions on the budget policy? Please try and review that, maybe we'll keep that on the agenda the next couple of months until we get a chance to actually include it. But, is there anything else that comes up, anybody wants to talk about, that would be good.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just, on page 4, the elected official salaries. So I'm wondering if this even needs to be that specific.
Page five at mine. The printed copy.
It says,
Is that?
Sure, yes.
Setting of salaries for the new terms of elected officials was last completed January
Right.
2022. That's,
I mean, that's the setting of salary, I don't know.
I mean, that's
They're on,
statutory.
it's
Yeah.
statutory,
it's an
so,
ongoing thing.
right,
You can't
and
change that.
there's 2 cycles of elected officials that, 3
Yeah.
come up and then 3 more come up.
So do you need a statement in there?
Right,
So, yeah, I would.
Not
say pull
even
that
need a
out as
statement
well.
in
Do you have
there.
any thoughts on that? No?
I have no issue with it. It's one of those things, it's just always been there.
right.
What page is that on?
It's
Page 5 on the printed version.
It's page number 4 on the numbered 4,
Yeah,
but there's
so
a
mine-
face sheet, so it would be page 5 if you printed it.
Like on page 2 almost. Sorry.
The only other thing I really wanted to mention was on page 8 or 9. The wage adjustments, so we put 3% in as a starting point, but, all of the unions have 4%.
All of what?
The unions,
The units? Makes sense.
we did have 4% last year. So just things to think about. Thank you again for your input.
Everybody get that? All right, any other questions, thoughts on budget policy stuff? Any other questions for finance director? I did have one. This little guy that you send out, the revenue and expense report year to date with budgets.
Okay.
I won't ask you to do it right now, but I'd like to go through that next month as a discussion point too, and make sure everybody here understands the totals that are in there, you know, the credits, the debt, the debits, what's remaining, how to kind of read this thing. I don't know if everybody gets that, because I get a little bit unclear about some of these things when I look at them. And you and I can have a separate discussion on that sometime. And I just think I think it'd be a good tool for us to keep an eye on what's going on and in basics. It's a nice report and I appreciate that you do it. So if you could just put a note next month, maybe.
Okay, can I see that really quick?
Yes.
I just want to get the report number on the bottom.
Yeah, no, just, you can hang on to it now.
Yeah, I personally would appreciate anything that you can review like that.
Yeah, it's just
Explain it.
make sure we're all on the same
I don't look at
page.
a lot of
All the
financial
county's
reports.
finances and what, you know, this is a great, it's just like the stuff Stephanie sent out every month. It's a
And
good-
Adrian has reached out and said, if I ever have any questions, she's more than happy to.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Right, because the revenue and expense report that I do send out, if it's countywide, it's very detailed, it's long, it's a lot of information to digest, so
This
that's
is
kind of
nicer
just a
to-
snapshot,
yeah.
yeah. Mhm.
Yep, and then you can always go to the other one.
Right.
If you need. Okay, any other questions, thoughts, comments? Hearing none, we'll move on. Madam Treasurer,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
thank you for waiting patiently.
No problem. Just, want to talk a little bit about the monthly financial report that I sent out, to the board on the second. To begin with, total county funds at the end of March were down over February by only 0.54%. 151,000. However, the addition of the circuit clerk's technology grant award positively offset that number by 662,000, but even if it had not, we would still be way below what you would think of as a regular monthly decline in a non-tax collection month would be, so all good news. The front page, you just noticed this, that I have continued to just add to the running total at the bottom, comparing to the previous month, what was received, and then what has been received in total year to date. Helpful when you're looking at a report like the revenue and expense report, kind of can see that sort of same thing. Just this is kind of a quick snapshot. Moving over to this page, which is the investment page, only 2 matured during March, shown on this page and highlight, earned $6,100 and change in interest for Social Security and liability. Currently have 29 other investments in place on behalf of 11 different county funds. 3 of which placed last week. We included on next month's report for you. Maturity dates vary between today, actually, out to October. Next maturity, we have 3 rather large CDs maturing on Thursday, $1.2 million. So I'm looking at more than $30,000 of interest between the 3 of those. So happy about that. One change I did, unless anybody has any questions about this, because I usually don't go into deep detail unless there's something I'm really concerned about. So if there's something you're concerned about, stop me before I go on. Are we okay to continue?
Where are all these CDs at? You said it.
Different places.
I was hoping you were gonna say that.
I don't want to give away too, I
No,
mean, there's a
you
little
know,
bit,
just-
so yeah, local Citizens, State Bank, and State Bank are my best sources actually for CDs. They're able to collateralize us at 110 to 125%, which is ensuring that
Yeah,
our,
that one's obvious.
ensuring that they should all be listed there unless I left the name off of 1 or 2 of them, if I didn't have room. I tell you on the top what bank
I
it's
see, it,
at,
yeah. For some
but not
reason I
some of
wasn't-
them they don't, so.
I
because
wasn't
I
seeing
figured
it
out
in
where-
there. I got you.
Yeah, so, they're also very competitive with rate. And so if I, come across another rate somewhere that's really good, they may not match it, but they may go higher. Some of the credit unions are really difficult to compete against, on rate, but I also have,
Good, right?
yeah, I have good relationships with our local banks. I prefer to keep money local. I don't really want to send it out somewhere else. These people work in our community, so, again, if I ever have any issues, if they solve it, they solve them immediately, so
Good.
that's currently where they are. I also have other vehicles primarily through US Bank's Investment Center, which you can see are the different tools. Bankers acceptance, let's see if I can remember what they're off the top of my head. Treasury notes, that's pretty much mostly it. CD rates are pretty good right now, so I stick with them. Really short term, I use bankers acceptance certificates, which is basically a post-dated check from a bank saying, let us use your money for a little while. Here's what we'll give you when we're done. So, and all, again, fully insured. So, yeah. So I try to do a little, stay a little diversified, but the CDs are too good to pass up sometimes, so. Anything else before I move to, so I wanted to talk about this last page, this color coded page. So I did make a change. The actual cash and the adjusted cash. So actual cash, that column is the total of what we see in the bank. It may not necessarily reflect the revenue and expenditure report to the penny, but this is cash in the bank at the end of the month. Adjusted cash, and in this case, it's specific to the nursing home. Adjusted cash, that number reflects what would be in the bank in cash had the nursing center been able to cover its own bills. Or in the case of the nursing center, if you look at number 3, how much more deeply that debt would be on an individual account level. So for example, if you go down to Social Security, there's $108,000 at the end of March. Well, now that's actually higher. It's 125. Liability fund, 163. So the money in adjusted cash is reflecting that these other funds have already paid those bills for the nursing home and have not been reimbursed to the tune of $320,000. So I think that no one was really picking up on that. And I thought this was actually the best place to represent it because we started to put that cash advance from the property tax distributions there too. And I thought it made more sense to show all of it than just some of it. So I don't know if you have any questions about that. I think in terms of transparency, I think you really need to see that because if you just hear a total debt number, I don't think it really has a lot of context. And when you're impacting other county funds, I think it's a public report, that needs to know that, so. Does anybody have any questions about that?
Well done. Thank you.
Just trying to stay on top of it, it takes a little bit of management, so. All right, next, I wanted to talk about Public Act 1030983, and I'm gonna send something around if you wanted to take with me. This report is from the Local Tax Allocation Division from the Department of Revenue. And I've forgotten about it, and I'm betting most people didn't know anything about it because I called Department of Revenue on Thursday when I panicked, because I can see payments that have been released by the state to us. Payments that are pending, one of them, and it's a smaller one, the local use tax on this front here, it's usually the smallest payment we get. Last month was 54,000 and change. So I saw the preview this month, it was $6,600, a drop of 80%. So to me, that's significant, even though we're not talking about a huge amount of money over 12 months, that's significant. So when I talked to the rep from Department of Revenue, reminded me that this was Public Act 1030983. And if you turn to the second page here, it really gets into the detail of why. And this law went into effect January 1, but because our tax collections on the sales tax side are 3 months delayed, we didn't see that until what's coming in April. So those adjustments, those changes were basically local use tax is more or less being cut, and you can see the reason why there. We're not seeing it until now. So I panicked quite a bit because I didn't know how that was really gonna impact other taxes, and I was told by pretty much the guy in charge that we should see an offset on the county the 1% sales tax, the 1/4% sales tax, public safety sales tax. We did not in this current month, not in March, but I just wanted to alert you to this, it's coming up. And I had hoped it would be a dollar for dollar. One goes down, the other goes up, right? It's not commensurate. They will not be the same. They're going to fluctuate sometimes wildly month to month, and it's precipitated on the spending, the sales tax activity in our jurisdiction. The more people spend, the better that number looks, but it still will not impact that local use tax in a positive way, because that's put in a pot and divided differently. It used to be all dumped in together and divided out by population. It's not that way anymore. It's connected to a physical presence of a retailer. And we don't have as much in this county as somewhere else does. So that average throughout the county, or the state rather, helped us. But now we're standing on our own use tax, which is significantly less. So
maybe we should just stand on our own as a county and not be part of the state anymore.
yes,
Did I say that?
that's a whole other discussion. But,
So hang on, in layman's terms, I'm sorry. I
Yeah,
don't mean to
please, this
interrupt.
is a weird thing, so.
Well, what I just heard you say, correct me if I'm wrong, is that basically Chicago's gonna get the benefit of it.
Wherever
They've got
the
all the retail
retail location is, I mean, the verbiage is specifically, let me read it, what does it say? Sales originate from outside of Illinois and made to Illinois customers, so it's not necessarily the state of Illinois. With physical presence nexus with Illinois are now subject to destination-based retailer's tax. So that whole shift to destination-based is what's driving this change. And like I said, it's not, to me, it's significant percentage-wise. It's an 80% drop. It's $50,000.
So when my wife orders vitamins from some company in Florida,
We are not realizing that sales tax unless they have some sort of physical presence also in Illinois. So that's why I put this here, kind of boils it down a little bit. And on this chart, there are several taxes listed. I highlighted the ones that some of them are municipal, so we're not impacted by those. So I just, I'm the doom and gloom report today because I'm pairing that with our personal property replacement tax, which we knew would be down, and that has been proven. It's come to fruition. We're still $183,000 short of the state estimate. We have one check left to come in the state's fiscal year next month. Hoping we make it, not entirely confident that we will, and we don't know now until the end of June, beginning of July, what next year's fiscal 26 for the state of Illinois. We have no idea what that looks like yet. But they are down dramatically year over year. So I'm kind of, I guess, painting a larger picture. This piece of the pie is getting smaller. This piece of the pie is getting smaller. And all of those have a direct, significant impact on the general fund, which is this, the biggest piece of the pie for us, where everybody looks to for funding that may not be possible in other ways. So, and then going back a little bit to the local use tax, I'm not suggesting that 1 month is predictive of a pattern, but knowing what the law says and what we should expect, I don't anticipate that number getting back to where it is. So we will definitely come under budget in that line item in the general fund this year. So when you look at that report and go, why is that? Then I'll hold this back for you. That's why. And as an aside, the local government allocation division puts out a monthly newsletter, and anybody can go get it if you like. So I had this on my calendar, this public act, and then forgot all about it until I saw the result in a reduced check. So
Yeah, also hold up the fact that when I purchase something at Menards, it's 11%. Not their 11%,
Right.
11% sales tax. Why wouldn't I drive 15 minutes and reduce that by 50%?
Right.
I mean, that, we raised the tax, but we're not helping ourselves.
Right. Depending on the scale of your purchase, you're absolutely right.
Oh, yeah.
The state's not helping us out any either, are they?
No, this was a state law.
Yeah.
So, no.
It's like the thinking that, gee, it's,
No.
take the money here, take the money there.
Mhm,
Yeah,
mhm.
nickel and dimes.
That's where all the reps are from now.
We're doing this with the motor fuel tax too. They're changing the way that's being now.
So after all that good news, if there is a question anymore about that, or if you want to kind of digest that or do your own research on the Public Act, I'm going to be monitoring this one closely. Because I'm waiting for the uptick on the other ones, where this one went down and we haven't seen it yet, but it's difficult to use March as a predictor to compare by, because that's the money we get in March was Christmas spending. So the money we get in April is, oh crap, I spent how much in Christmas, and now, you know what I mean? It's sort of reactive. So I can't necessarily say that again, that this is predictive, but I will be keeping a closer eye on this one because I didn't see that big of a hit coming. Relatively speaking.
Fees are going up.
Yeah, yeah. So I do have one other topic just to close out here with you, and that is to switch to the collector side. Prepayment of property taxes, if anybody is so inclined, continues this year through the 21st. We do have quite a number of people who are taking advantage of that. Given all the hard work of the assessor and the clerk, I'm not sure what the status is right now on the state multiplier, but I'm hopeful the tax bills will be mailed sooner this year. And will include a targeted end of June first installment date. I'd like to get us back to where we were pre-COVID. That forced us back much further into July, and we'd like to get back to where we once were, because that makes it easier to distribute a larger sum of money early to all the property tax districts. So we're gonna hopefully push back that timeline to where it was before, but the second installment will remain in September. And the window of time to make that first installment payment isn't when, I won't compress that. It's just mail it earlier, pay the first installment earlier, but within the same amount of time, so. But again, we're still waiting on the state for the magic number that's holding all of us up in this process right now. But once we get it, the county clerk has done every possible step she can to be ready to roll, so.
From a historical standpoint, you may not be able to answer this question. I need to probably go to a school board meeting, but
Mhm.
I was looking at all the percentages on our tax bill recently
Mhm.
throughout the county.
Yeah.
Just trying to look at some of this stuff myself. And every other school district in the county is at about 4.5%. Unless I'm reading it wrong.
I think you're looking at the percentage of your total tax rate. The percentage of your tax bill is about 60. But so like say the Freeport's rate is 13.4, but Freeport School District is 7.8.
That's what I'm
That's the
saying.
rate.
Yeah,
That's not the
no, that's, I'm
percentage
talking
of your
about the
bill.
individual school
Right,
district. rate.
now I see what you're
Was
saying.
averaging around 4.5%
Mhm.
for everybody else, and then I get to Freeport.
Scale, size, I mean, it's
But I mean,
difficult to compare
from
that.
an economies of scale standpoint, they've got a lot more to draw from. Why wouldn't that actually be lower?
I don't know that that's.
Do you wanna
Yeah.
offer this? You know,
Look
I haven't
at the-
looked at the history of
Look
how
at the
it's gone up.
size of the salaries of the administrators of that district.
Okay,
Number of administrators, things, you know, I mean,
but how do they get away with that I mean, what is the law around?
I
What
wouldn't,
you
I
can
can't even
do.
pretend to speak to that. That is a school board,
Okay,
you know, and they are just, I mean, it's just known, you know, they're the largest taxing districts everywhere.
no, I
It's not
get
just
that. I
us, so-
understand why that is, but to be
Mhm.
over 50% higher than everybody else.
That's a
In
great
the
set of
general-
questions for this, for school
General,
board.
within the county, I mean, even Lee Win.
Mhm.
from what I saw, unless I'm reading it wrong, but hey, I need to take that up
You know,
with Susan.
some things, like certainly like administrative salaries relative to other districts. What the school district here offers in terms of extracurriculars, or, I mean, there,
Yeah,
you know, you don't have those same opportunities in some smaller districts, so I'm certain, you know, in some ways it's a trade-off, you know, what services and or offerings do you want for children, depending on where you live. For
Yeah, I
example,
was
I have a
just
friend who's in,
curious.
Orangeville, who wanted their child to play tennis.
Hmm.
They don't have a tennis team.
right.
Freeport does. And we're the only school district in this area that does. Or the Showtime, or, you know, I could go on and on probably, but I don't want to, and you probably don't want to hear me do that, but I think it's just because of the size, the amount of things that can be offered and provided, coupled with things like the union contracts, administrative salaries, you know, a whole myriad of
But
different.
again, from a perception and economies of scale point, yeah.
I think it's probably more perception.
Well, but they take in more sports revenue, I'm sure. They take it, you know, I need to get a copy of the budget.
So probably paying a lot more pensions than others.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Teacher's retirement system.
So-
Mhm.
I was just surprised to see that and just wondered if there was any historicity you could offer in that, like how it got to that point, because that doesn't make any sense to me.
Since we have absolutely zero control over that, I would
That's
be
fine.
silly
Thank
to
you.
try to do that. Yeah, so, sorry,
Okay.
can't answer that one.
Any other questions for Madam President this evening? Hearing none, old business. Seeing none, we move on to new business. Approval of resolution to amend fiscal year 25 budget. Anybody want to speak to that?
Do you like me to speak to that?
Yes.
Okay.
Entertain a motion.
Okay, so, in 2024, the nursing center did submit, supplemental requests. So they were awarded a total of $173,575 for the 2024 budget. So Lesher was paid from their HVAC, line item. They had another line item for computers, one for a cooking range, and one for a front parking lot seal. So they did not utilize those dollars because the Lesher expenses were over what they had estimated. So we did speak with the administrator, and he believed that all of the bills would come in a timely fashion. So we did not put an additional supplemental request in the 2025 budget. So those line items are active. There's no dollars allocated in those lines. So what this resolution does is to take the remaining 2024 dollars that were unused and put them into those line items for 2025, so we can pay the remaining invoices for Lesher for the HVAC project.
The auditors are okay with this?
Yes.
So hearing that explanation, I would entertain a motion to approve this resolution. I hear a motion to approve. So a second.
Second.
Any other discussion?
So is that like cash carried forward?
Right, so we did account for that in the cash carry forward for the capital fund. So we don't have to adjust anything. The revenue is there. We do have an excess of around 400,000 in the capital fund, simply because we are unsure of the revenue sources for the capital fund in future years. Tax revenues going down, circuit clerk, court fees, that type of thing. We don't know what the future holds there, so we want to make sure we have a little bit of reserve
Right.
for those supplemental requests going forward.
Okay, any other discussion? All right, hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. All right, chair reports, finance, I really don't have anything. I'm outside of that request I made you for the general summer budget. I think to go through that, next month will be good. I'm more of a line by line basis to understand where it's at. But I think you guys do a great job putting reports together. So appreciated. Thank you for all your time and that. makes this job a lot easier for sure. So that's all I had, administration.
Oh, it's quite a bit of stuff here, the treasurer's report, county clerk had several interesting items, one was the, about all the work that was going on with the election, and that it went extremely well. And then there's two races in Stevens County that are very close, one tie in Wadums Township, and then for trustee position. In the village, Lena has someone else at one vote, and then tomorrow, the last vote by mail can still be delivered to up until April 15th. And the election results will be certified on the 16th, which would be Wednesday. I believe. So that was kind of interesting. We'll see how those two races fall out. Administrator report, you had that tonight as well, and then Nate had quite a laundry list of things he's working on, so he's a busy man with all those grants and upgrades to the courthouse, and then the emergency room they're doing over there.
Mention that there.
Yeah, where was that report? Yeah, I'll just find that real quick. You put that in our report from the subcommittee here, if I can get that open. Bear with me. Okay, so Scott Townsend was talking about the EMA emergency texting and the ham radio, and then also the emergency operations center at the courthouse is about completed and will be offering an open house at some point. And then he's plans to update the county board at some point on improvements to that EMA as well. So
Yeah, they took some existing space at the courthouse and turned it into an emergency management operations center. And it sounds really neat. I mean, Scott was explaining it to us at the subcommittee,
yeah,
last Thursday.
so they can do like press conferences and communication centers, say if
Very well prepared.
the federal FEMA comes in or something. God forbid that, but it sounds like it's gonna be really good
This-
thing.
Sorry.
No, you're fine, go ahead.
Yeah.
During the Public Prop and Safety Committee meeting, the sheriff and Mr. Townsend talked about it. in a
Okay.
Pretty lengthy conversation about it there too, and it's impressive. I've been over there and used it, or we had our wellness screenings in there, but it is, the transformation is pretty
Yeah,
amazing.
you just recommended if you have time Thursday, after the county board meeting, you can stop over there and check it out. So,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's-
Nate's been involved with all that, plus the elevators, phones, you name it, so. So he's been in the grants for the circuit clerk as well, so. A lot going on there. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so this month we actually had reports from Matrix, which is great. I hope everybody has the opportunity to review them. Also, make sure to check the notes on the sides because they're very detailed of when some of the bad debt write-offs that you're gonna be seeing come Thursday. It's kind of nice to see the dates and how they explain the notes. Again, bad debt write-off will be coming on Thursday for the board. Census today is 51. And then we did post the RFP, so that's out there, and that's really about it. Good news. You're up, sir.
Thank you. Just, well, they are giving a report from emergency management center, but the sheriff, he reported that the elevator will be inspected on Thursday, so it'll be in use. On these elevators, this elevator have a phone, a camera, and a fire suppression unit, which the other one did not have before. You mentioned about the HVAC at the jail will be complete. He did touch on the Katrina law, which the state had passed a law. Katrina was boyfriend or husband or whatever was killed. So now when they go for order of protection, they can mark on the box of having the gun, safe or whatever. And they go out and get a warrant, go out and get the guns. So that's been in law for a month now. I guess they had an incident in Joe Davies with that. He's looking at that, they're gonna be how they go about doing it because you know how people are about their Second Amendment and the priceless guns and stuff like that. He stated tonight that it just tell them there's gonna be some overtime, but that's went into effect. Coroner, he reported in February 46 deaths, one accidentally and 45 natural. In March it was 53, 3 accidental, 2 suicide, and 48 natural and 8 autopsy. We will be voting Thursday on the purchasing of a vehicle, which was leased, but it turned. So now we're just gonna go ahead and buy it outright, which is $6,603.37. That's it.
Thank you, sir. Planning and development?
Planning development, just 2 issues. We have 5 properties that the county currently owns within the city of Freeport. And the little dots, already talked about that. That we're going to be transferring to the city so that we don't have ownership of those little spots in between the city limits. And also there is a request for an expansion of the enterprise zone for Savencia cheese on Route 20 west of Lena. They're looking to expand out there and they're wanting to expand that E zone so they can do that. Those are the issues. So we will bring forward. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
What about these properties?
Where are they?
Yeah.
Mary Street, there's 2,
Mary Street?
Mary Street,
Yeah,
which is across the river on
Right.
75. They're all over in that section. There's one right on 75, but the other 3, or other 2, I should say, are dotted in between Mary and 75. They're all treed. No houses or anything like that. And they were actually, I think you had looked up, John Bloom had county take possession of those through tax sale or tax deed. And we have no idea why they would have wanted those properties, but they're obviously not going to ever be developed. And that's one of the reasons why the city has interest in them as well. And I don't think we will own property in the city of Freeport.
doesn't have anything to do with the farmer or current trail out that way. do they?
No.
It's not those.
They're all north of,
North of-
yeah, north.
All right.
Maybe that's it.
We had a good meeting. We had 2 people apply for the youth diversion fees. And we approved both of them. Twin Image Counseling asked for $3,000 and we gave it to them, and the ramp organization asked for $2,000. And we gave that to 2,000. You had 9,100 and some odd dollars. It's kind of disappointed that we didn't have more applicants, but
Just 2.
just 2. Yeah. There was some discussion about the who can apply to. I think we need to clean that up before next year. What the rules are and aren't, so. But other than that, good meeting. That's it.
Super. Thank you, sir. Mr. Newby.
All right, well, we had a good meeting, but we have 2 HD, 2507 and 2508. That will be, come before the full board for approval. One was an engineering study, and the other one was for some work to be done on Triangle Road over the Yellow Creek in Kent, and so there's some construction, that needs to be done there, and so both of those bids, will be before the board on Thursday. We also, as we were discussing earlier, gave approval for the highway department to go after funds for the Safer Streets project. Black Hawk Hills has had a tremendous amount of success landing those grants and have become good at it. And so he's gonna work with them to receive some funds to fix some intersections and different things that we have throughout our county, working along with Black Hawk Hills and they'll write the grant. So again, it's been a good few years of grant writing to grab money for construction projects for us, so. That's all I really have, is there anything else, there that I
I
missed?
just double check and see if I saw anything.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
From Blackhawk Hills perspective, are they still keeping tabs on the bead process, even though they're out of the business, so to speak?
I'm sure they're looking at it, I mean, they're not investing anything, or they're not right, I don't think they've been written any
Okay.
grants for anyone, there are a couple of counties around us that have written some grants, so I don't think that they're not looking at it, it's just
Okay.
kind of challenging right now, how much money will come into the BEAD project, because a lot of these projects are being gutted, nothing from the federal level, so it's just kind of hard to see where the money's gonna come from, and so once they figure out how much money is gonna still be available, they can kind of readjust,
Gotcha.
how much they're gonna give out for those programs.
Yes, sir.
When we get a grant for making the streets safer along our lines, do we consider all of the communities in the county? I mean, how does Lena get some of that money, or?
Well, there are a number of communities, there are a number of counties, they all go in and they think there's there's a listing of a lot of different properties in, so they kind of, choose which ones that can get the money for and each year, and they try to fix so many in each county, so.
Yeah,
Okay,
go
into
ahead.
that. So the Safe Streets for All grant was a multi-county initiative. Stephenson was the lead on it. But they had interactive maps that were taken out in all of the counties. That was public, could input information of where they identified dangerous areas or
Right.
difficult areas. And they cross-referenced that with exit reports in each area and everything, and then came up with a prioritization plan based on.
Oh, nice. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, the only thing I could think of is that assistant job for the animal control. Will
Yeah.
probably be posted that job. I mean, after she's got posted.
So the job description, we just got back from the labor attorney today. It has to get approved through committee. No, I guess it did. So once she makes those changes,
It'll be posted pretty soon, all the time, you know.
we just received it this morning, so.
Hopefully we'll find somebody. Yeah.
All right, so before we move on to Mr. Bush, we need to, when litigation, when an action against affecting or on behalf of a particular public body has been filed and is pending before the Court of Administrative Tribunal, or when the public body finds an action is probable or imminent, we need to go into executive session to discuss something. So I would entertain a motion to do that at this time.
So,
Have a motion and a second. Would you mind taking a roll call for that?
Mr. Whalen,
Yes.
Mr. Gogers.
Yes.
Ms. Baker.
Hi.
Mr. Bush. Mr. Frick.
yes.
Mr. Diddens.
Aye.
Mr. Nitty.
Thank you.
So this morning.
Wait.
Sorry. So that's